It is fantasy draft weekend, and if you are playing on the NFL fantasy platform, there are some awful picks that you can make. The ADP, it's a bit crazy, so I'm going to walk you around rounds 1 to 10 and talk you through the worst picks you could be making in each of those rounds. Round 1, Saquon Barkley with an ADP of 10. Yes, Saquon is playing on the best offense of his career, but it just doesn't add up enough to be taking him in round 1. Barkley over the last 3 years has averaged 293 receiving yards per year, falling below 1.0 yards per route run in 2 of the last 3. He's not been above 1.5 since his rookie season. The Eagles, they don't throw the ball to the running backs very much. They threw to the running backs at the 12th lowest rate last year. Saquon, over the last couple of years, he's averaged a 12.9% avoided tackle rate. That's lower than both DeAndre Swift and Miles Sanders, who the Eagles got rid of. And all that's before we mention when we get to the goal line. We know this is Jalen Hurts' area of the field. Last year, Jalen Hurts had 16 rush attempts inside the 5-yard line, which was the 8th most across all positions, converted 13 of them into touchdowns. Why would they go away from that for Saquon Barkley to take the touches instead? Round 2, Davante Adams, ADP of 17. Davante Adams is 31 years old, and friend of the channel Dwayne McFarlane for Fantasy Life has shown plenty of data about why wide receivers decline at this point in their career, producing on average 30 to 40% of what they did at their peak. Clearly, Davante Adams has a large opportunity ahead of him. He's only got Jacoby Myers' meaningful competition at wide receiver, and he's probably not going to come off the field all that often. But the quarterback play, it could be really poor with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew ping-ponging back and forth between starting. We know this could be a run-heavy team as well. Ever since Antonio Pierce got the job, this team was incredibly run-heavy last year, and everything they've done this offseason doesn't seem to suggest that they're going to throw the ball 30 times a game. Round 3, ADP of 32, it is Rachaad White, who is one of the most inefficient running backs in the NFL, average 3.6 yards per carry. Yes, the upgrades to the offensive line should help, but Bucky Irving, he seems like a perfect complement and the kind of guy who can steal work away from Rachaad White. Last year, White ranked 37th in rush yards after contact, 30th in rush yards before contact, 29th in big run rate, and he's only had 4 games over 80 rushing yards in his NFL career. Rachaad White got there on volume last year. He had the 6th highest opportunity share among running backs at 72%. If Bucky Irving takes some of that away, Rachaad White is not efficient enough to pay off the cost of a round 3 pick. Hit that subscribe button while you are here. We are on the path to 3,500 subscribers. We've got everything you need here. Dynasty, DFS, Redraft, Best Ball. We've got you covered on every platform, ESPN, Yahoo, NFL, Sleeper. And we've also got videos on my perfect draft strategy for 2024. Round 4, CJ Stroud, ADP of 44. Look, CJ Stroud is an elite talent, and if you can get CJ Stroud a couple of rounds later, I don't hate that at all. But CJ Stroud, he didn't put up huge numbers last year. Yes, he was incredibly impressive, but he only had 2 of the top 100 weekly scores in 2023. He doesn't rush the ball, which makes it incredibly difficult for him to keep up with the guys above him, like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. Those guys, they're used near the goal line. Lamar maybe less so than the other 2. But they're all rushing for above 5 rush attempts per game. Meanwhile, CJ Stroud, you're talking maybe 2 attempts per game, and it's not enough to give him the kind of floor that those guys have. Round 5, Joe Mixon, 48th overall. Look, I'm not a hater when it comes to the Texans. I love the Texans. I take a lot of Nico Collins, a lot of Tank Dell, but I'm not taking Joe Mixon or CJ Stroud. Joe Mixon, he's been unhealthy the entire offseason. The knock on Joe Mixon is normally that he can't stay healthy through the NFL season. And here we are, and he's barely practiced at all. Cam Akers has looked really impressive in the offseason. It seems like they're going to mix in a few different options, and I just don't think that Joe Mixon is going to pay off in the way that people hope he might, based on what he used to be able to do. Round 6, for San Francisco 49ers defense at pick 64. Why are you taking a defense at pick 64? There are so many good options at wide receiver and running back. Fill out those positions, create depth before those positions go off a cliff edge. The Niners defense, it could regress. Sometimes the best defenses, they're not great for fantasy. They don't put up the most fantasy points. Stop trying to fill your lineup out quickly and go and take a different player. Round 7, ADP of 74 is DeAndre Swift. Teams, they just don't seem to enjoy the DeAndre Swift experience. How much of it last year was the Eagles' offensive line that really helped DeAndre Swift hit career highs in receptions, yards per game, and games played? Meanwhile, the Bears, they've kept all 3 running backs, Roschon Johnson, who they drafted last year, Khalil Herbert, who the team seems to really like. If this becomes a committee, then DeAndre Swift is not going to pay off a top 80 pick. Round 8, Austin Ekeler, ADP of 89. If you've watched my content this year, you probably knew this one is coming. Ekeler's coming off a career low 60.2 PFF grade last year. That's a massive drop from his career average of 79.6. His missed tackles forced per game almost halved last year, along with setting a career low in yards after contact per attempt. That's a number that's fallen for 6 straight seasons. All the signs of regression and age catching up with Austin Ekeler are there. It just comes down to whether you want to listen to them or not. We could also throw in the fact that Jaden Daniels, as a dual threat quarterback, is probably less likely to pass the ball to running backs because dual threats, they don't check down, they see the field open, and when he sees Austin Ekeler open, he just sees a blocker for himself. Round 9, Nick Chubb with an ADP of 106. This is a 29-year-old running back coming off a multi-ligament, multi-surgery injury. Look, Nick Chubb has been one of the best running backs in the NFL over the last few years. He's an incredible rusher, but I don't think you want to be taking him in your fantasy drafts right now. You look at the running back room, they've got Jerome Ford, they've got Donta Foreman. They're also changing this offense to be a different type of offense than they've run in the last few years under their new offensive coordinator. I'm not sure any of that suits Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb is going to miss at least the first 4 games of the season. The team seem to love Jerome Ford. When Chubb comes back, I think it's going to be very hard for him to pay off in a meaningful way. Round 10 with an ADP of 117, it's another dusty running back, Zeke Elliott for the Cowboys. Look, they've got Rico Dowdle, who the team said is going to be the lead back. They've just brought in Dalvin Cook as well. Zeke set career lows in success rate in 2023. He also failed to break a single rush longer than 17 yards on 184 attempts. He had all the opportunity, but he just doesn't have the juice anymore. Keep scrolling down. Rico Dowdle is buried in ADP on this platform. Scroll down. Take Dowdle instead, and you'll have a far better fantasy team. Those are the worst plays for the NFL fantasy platform. If you want to check out the best ones, go and check out this video here. Also, check out the video that I did on my #1 best draft strategy for 2024. It will set you up to win.